Welcome to part 2 of our Interact tutorial on VisualLink. Our agenda for this video is going to be, first we're going to modify an existing MS query. In fact, we're going to modify the query we created in part 1. We're going to add some criteria or testing, and we're going to see how to use multiple tables. Let's modify an existing query. I've opened the spreadsheet we created in VisualLink part 1, and we're going to add the state of the vendor to this query. Now we can delete this query and make the whole thing up from scratch, but we're going to see how to modify this query. And to do that, we're going to go to Data and choose Queries and Connections. And if you don't see it, you might need to widen your spreadsheet, as it is an option that disappears when you shrink the size of your spreadsheet. So we'll click on Queries and Connections, and a panel opens on the right, and here we see our query. I'm going to double click on it, and here we see how it is defined. We're going to click on Definition, and we're going to edit the query. Incidentally, the SQL command that is being generated to create this query is here, and we may look at this a little more when we are in our tutorial number 3. But for now we're going to edit this query. And we are going to first drag this down, make this a little wider, and I'll touch S for state. It jumps down to the S's, and here is state. I'll double click on state, and you can see it appeared here. Now, if we were to return right now to Excel, this is the order it all would appear in. But perhaps we'd rather have state over here. We can highlight this column and drag it over, and we've reordered the way it will return to Excel. And if we wanted to make a change to our heading here, we can double click on this column. It opens up a window, and it will use the default heading down here, the field name, but we can put our own heading in, and perhaps we would just put YTD, a couple of dollar signs. Click OK, and you will see the change made down here. So let's return this to Excel. Click OK, and you can see our change. Let's now look at adding some criteria to our query. Perhaps we just wish to see Washington vendors. We can come up to State, clear all the checkboxes, just click on Washington, and now we only see our Washington vendors. But perhaps we wish to dial that right into our query. I'm going to return where all states are selected. We'll come to Data, Queries and Connections, open the side panel again, and edit our query. We will add criteria. We can choose our field, and again, if I just touch S, I'll go right to the S's, and here is state. State must be equal to WA for Washington, and when we add this criteria, we see our data view change down below to enforce our criteria. And the criteria stack up here as we add them. We can add multiple criteria. So let's return to Excel. And we can now see we've hardwired the state of Washington into our query. We're now going to look at using multiple tables in MS Query. We are in a blank spreadsheet, and we're going to come up to Data, Get Data from other sources, down to Microsoft Query, as we did before. We'll select our 4-character company ID. We will now select tables, and this time we're going to utilize accounts receivable. We'll select our accounts receivable customer table, and we'll select our accounts receivable open item table. We'll expand our view as we did before. And as you may have noticed, there is a link between the two tables, and this has been preset for us, and it is relating or joining the custom number in the master file, accounts receivable master file, to the custom number in the open item file. If there was some reason we didn't like this link, we could click on it and delete it, but usually we want to have it. And also, if there was a relationship that didn't exist that you wished to create, you could click on a field here and drag it over to another field and generate your own relationship. And sometimes with the user-defined fields that are available in Interact, that is something that is very handy to do. But we'll go ahead and select some fields. I will choose customer, and it appears down below in our data set. I will click N, press N, and pull up the name. And now I'll stay over here, and I think we'll pull up balance. This is the total customer balance as it exists on the customer file. This is a summary number. Now we'll choose the values which should support it. I'm going to choose reference number, which should be the invoice number, and record type, where we can see payments and whatnot, open invoices, and I'm going to choose amount. So we have our data set here, and I'm going to add one additional criteria to keep it a little briefer. I'm going to add a criteria that the record type has to be equal to 1. So I'll come up to criteria, add a criteria. We'll look for a record type. There it is. Must be equal to 1. And as I add that, you'll see what happens down below. So now we just have record type 1. And if you ever get the criteria is kind of messed up, you can always come up here and click remove criteria and start them over. So let's return our data to Excel. And we'll just let it come where it lands. And here we are. So it would be nice to have totals and be able to do a query by doing a selection for filtering. So let's come down below and add a total. Now if you use the normal sum command, as we see up here, it seems to not really take the criteria into account. I've had much better luck using the subtotal command. So I'm going to press equals subtotal, open brackets, and it's just off the screen, but a 9 means subtotal, comma, the beginning of my range, which is right here, full colon, and now I'm going to scroll up and choose the end of my range, scroll back down, and I'll put a close on it and press enter, and there we are. So there's a subtotal of our open invoices. Now I'm going to come up and select Cimarron Management. And here we are. Our subtotal of our invoices is 44,700, which matches the amount on our customer master file, 44,700. And this has been a very brief demonstration. There could have been credit memos and such, and we would have had to have taken those into account also. But you can see how the subtotal command seems to work very well when you're doing filtering. Let's change our filter. We'll unselect Cimarron and go down to Evergreen. And here again, you can see there's one transaction for $1,000, and that matches our balance for $1,000. So by pulling multiple tables in, you can do very nice queries in Excel. To summarize part 2, we saw how to modify an MS query. We've also looked at several methods of using criteria and filters, and we've learned how to work with multiple tables. I would like to point out that while we worked with the Interact database, we never opened an Interact app in this video. Our entire access has been in Excel. For further capabilities, please watch Visual Link Part 3, where we query into a single cell of Excel, and Part 4, Advanced Concepts. Thanks for viewing.